Hey everybody, today is Tuesday, December the 8th, 2020. We are still working on multiplication and we're working on multiplication with patterns and facts that we've already learned to solve problems with multiples of 10. So we're going to think about the facts we've already learned and use that knowledge to help us with multiples of 10, multiplying with multiples of 10. Now, you can always draw pictures to help you when we're doing those basic facts that you're not sure of. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today and how that can help us solve problems when we are looking at multiples of 10. Multiples of 10 means numbers like 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, and so on, counting by our tens. So let's go ahead and get started. And again, we are talking about multiplying by multiples of 10. How can basic facts help us when multiplying a single digit number by multiple of 10? So our learning objective today is I will use basic multiplication facts and number patterns to multiply by multiples of 10. You already learned some basic multiplication facts. We learned our twos, our fives, our tens, our ones, our zeros. Today, we're going to use those basic facts and patterns with zero to multiply by multiples of 10. So we're going to think about what happens when we multiply by powers of 10. What are some things that might come in groups of 10? So let's think about some things that we could purchase that might come in groups of 10. What might be an easy way to count things that are in groups of 10? So we want to think about what is going to be the most efficient way for us to count and get a total number when we're multiplying. We're able to do that much faster if we find strategies that help us connect that. So let's go ahead and start looking at these problems. What strategies can be used to solve them? Now, we talked about the fact that we could use strategies of multiples of 10. We could break those apart and look at them in a little different way. I'm going to show you some examples of how we could multiply here and help the process along. So I'm going to tell you that when I look at 5 times 30, I want to look at this zero here. Remember, we talked about using that zero pattern for us. So I want to think about this zero right here. Okay. Now, when I think about that zero, I know that if it's a multiple of 10, I'm going to have an answer, a product that has a zero in the ones place. So I'm going to go ahead and come over here. I know for a fact that it's going to have a zero in the ones place because we know that all multiples of 10 have zero in the ones place value. Now, the next thing that I have to think about is going to be the 3 and the 5. I know that there are basic facts for 3 times 5. So in my mind, I'm thinking about how can I solve what is 3 times 5? And if I count by my fives with repeated addition, I know 5 plus 5 is 10 plus 5 more is 15. So if I can know the basic knowledge of that fact, I can come over and that's going to be my first two digits in my number. And my final number is going to be, digit is going to be the zero. So my answer to that problem is 150. Now, let's think about that in regards to 2 times 40. I would recommend immediately that you look at what is 2 times 4. Once you determine what 2 times 4 is, it's going to make it much easier for you to calculate what the 2 times 40 is. So if I know that 2 times 4, and I can count by my 2's if I want to, or by my 4's, but 2, 4, 6, 8, I know that 4 times 2 equals 8. I also know that I'm going to have a zero at the end of my answer because it is going to be a multiple of 10. So I know the basic fact here. I'm going to underline that for you. I know that basic fact And I also know that this basic fact is going to equal 8. So once I know that, then all I have to do is put a 0 at the end of my answer. Now, I want you on your own to think about what is 9 times 20. Thinking about how can I use those basic facts for 9 times 20 to come up with my answer. So think about what basic fact you have for 9 times 2, and that's going to help you solve the answer of 9 times 20. So hopefully you already know that 2 groups of 9 or 9 groups of 2 equals 18. So now we've got our first 2 digits in our answer. The only thing that we have remaining is this 0. So what should I do with this 0? I don't have to think about multiplying it because I already know that it's going to be at the end of my answer. And 9 times 20 gives me 180. Let's think about how we can relate this to a word problem. If we're looking at a word problem where we know that we're going to be multiplying, then we can also use that same strategy. So a volunteer group is planting trees at 5 different parks. They planted 90 trees at each park. How many trees did the group plant in all? So what we've got to think about here is what our problem actually is consisting of. So we have 90, oops, I went a little too far, hold on, 90 times 5. Now, what basic fact in your mind are we going to have to know before we can solve this problem? If you said 5 times 9, then you were correct. And here we can count 5 9 times or 9 5 times. It's totally up to you. But in my case, I think it's easier to do repeated addition for 5s. I can skip count by my 5s to get the answer. So I'm going to do 5 9 times. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. So I know the first 2 digits of my answer is going to be 45. Now, the only thing that I have remaining is to add a 0 to my answer to get how many trees the group planted in all. So the group planted 450 trees in all. So remember, we're looking at those basic facts. What's 9 times 5? That's where this part of the answer came from. And then I'm just going to bring that 0 over because that pattern allows me to just bring the 0 over. I have 1 0 that I've got in my factors, so I can just put that at the end of my answer. Hope this is helpful. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to get back onto the whole group Google Meet, and I will be available to answer any questions after our 12 o'clock meet. Everybody have a great day, and I'll see you soon. And I forgot, but I have my keyword for today that you need to make a comment on in the box is elf. So in the lesson work, you're going to make the comment with the word elf. Everybody have a great day.